Good morning, Providence, Rhode Island. We will be there later on today around lunchtime. We're going to be meeting up with the famous Kyle Sabuth, one of America's rock stars of real estate agents. I think he's got some incredible statistics for just volume. This guy is an absolute machine, and we're excited to have him on the show. Harrison unfortunately can't be with us today. He sends his love. He had a commitment this morning in Boston, and he's on the road. So we're gonna see how I do. We're gonna see how I do all by myself, solo today. I figured I was poking around here back in Springfield and Holyoke. I saw this. I saw a new listing come on that I think is kind of interesting. Let's take a peek here. This 205 St. James was a really pretty Victorian, but I don't think we're gonna look at that. Let's see something. Boop, boop. Okay. Let's take these bad boys off. There's a new 3 family that just came on the market. It's completely vacant. Needs a lot of love. I already know this property. Not the best area, if we're being frank. 8488 Newton Street. One of one photo here. This is a 3 family, and you can see it's listed for $85,000. 3 family, fixer-upper in the heart of Holyoke. This property can be a great investment property once fixed up. It is currently vacant, and it needs everything. Price to sell fast. Bring all offers. Please bring a ladder and tools. You know you're looking at a good potential flip if you need to bring a ladder to get inside. You will not be able to access the property without the ladder because there are no steps. So according to this, we've got three 3-bedrooms with 1 full bath in each. Doesn't look like it comes with really any. It was assessed at $46,000. I have a feeling it'll honestly probably trade somewhere around that number. This would be interesting. This is a slightly challenged strip here of downtown Holyoke. And there's debate really on what do you do to improve really struggling areas. There's an expression: you can buy the house, you can fix the house, you can't fix the neighborhood. I think that's yes and no. There's a lot of negativity on this street, or there has been historically. I think this would be one of those investment opportunities where there might be a home ownership for sale kind of execution opportunity. So what I mean by that is if you took this 3 family and you can go and if you could renovate it and make it livable, could you then work with could you then sell those off as individual condominiums and bring home ownership to the neighborhood opposed to just more renters? A lot of concerns, or Holyoke's concern in a lot of areas has been absentee landlords in the past, where they don't have a presence to monitor these types of properties. And as somebody who lives in Holyoke and works in Holyoke, I think that's a rightfully so concern, because any real estate, to be honest with you, needs active management. I really don't care. I don't really care what anybody else tells you. There's no such thing as truly passive, but where there's more happening on the street, let's give it some color, I guess, if you will. You're really going to want to be present in an investment like this in this area. So, if you're not necessarily up for the task of doing that, this could potentially be a nice little flip here that you could potentially sell for $250 to maybe $300,000. The question is, if it needs everything, can you even renovate it for that price point? And my spidey senses are going to tell me probably not. Um, you know, One thing that pretty much a lot of developers, a lot of home remodelers, even at this three family size, once you start to really have to renovate the entire thing, soup to nuts, as they say, top to bottom, it needs everything. You start to trigger a lot of, um, uh, you have to bring things up to code, right? So depending on who you ask, is how they classify what considers a real piece of real estate to be considered commercial. In the eyes of the fire department, this is going to be a commercial piece of real estate. That means that this right there is going to require a full sprinkler system, a full monitored fire alarm system, and those two things right there are going to run you over $100,000 on this piece of property, because you're going to have to dig up the street and connect all of those utility services. Since it says it needs everything, you probably need to do new water. You might need to do new plumbing. You can't assume that you can't, right? Um, in some instances, you can do a fire suppression system where the fire department will let you get away with having tanks in the basement. They let us do that on a three family in East Boston. We had these 500-gallon tanks, multiple tanks in the basement that basically had a pump on them. So in the event of a fire, it pumps the water from those tanks into the property, and that gives the fire department enough time to get there before they hook up to their own, services to extinguish the rest of the fire. So, kind of already knowing that a lot of three families are, especially this area, I'd say, $250 to probably $300,000 is what you're going to see from a home renovation sellout price point. The real challenge becomes, how do you renovate this thing and actually make a couple bucks? Because all of us home remodelers, we want to buy and renovate for 65, 70 cents on the dollar, for really quick, simple flips. I mean, simple flips. We're doing a kitchen, we're doing a bathroom, maybe we're painting, refinishing floors. You might push that to 75%, maybe 80% if you're using all of your own money and you're in a very luxurious position. But if this thing can sell for $250 and we know we have to put $100,000, $125,000 into just a fire system alone before we do everything else, we're going to exceed. This thing you could probably easily spend $200,000 plus on just renovating this apartment building. And then you're basically into it for the cost of what you could just sell the building for. And you have to ask yourself, is this a piece of property in a location you want to invest and effectively come in, for 90 cents on the dollar of what it could be worth? And most investors and developers would tell you no. But nonetheless, 8488 Newton Street, I think this is one that we're going to walk in and we're going to go check out, because it is definitely priced at it's at a price point that has people's interest. We're talking under $30,000 an apartment here. However, one of the nice things about this property is that it's all 3-bedroom units. So that means, if you were to go the rental market route and you were to go the Section 8 rental route, which is probably, in all honesty, probably what we would do here, you are looking at about $1,800, between $1,700 to $1,800 a month in rental income. So, that's about $5,400 a month. So this thing could turn in to a nice little cash cow, but it will definitely require active management You're definitely going to want to have good security, good lighting. This is something you're going to want to monitor consistently um, to ensure that your improvements don't later become kind of beat up. So let's see. We got 44 James Street here. This is a 2-family for $250. Let's see. Let's check out this guy. Okay. Cute little 2-family. Okay. No insides. Another 2-family for $300,000. This is a good sign, guys, for Holyoke, because I'll tell you, a couple years ago, 2-families were not selling for $300,000. They weren't listed at $300,000, and this one needs a little bit of finish work, just like this paint job behind you. It needs a little bit of finish work behind me. Surprised they're listing it for this much with it not being a finished product. Nice yard. 69 Gates Street. I'm not familiar with that street. Here you go. Longwood Ave, 2-family, $325. We just had Adelino Vicente on the podcast last week. Our producer Caleb McCubbins is going through, chopping it all up into pieces of content, and this will be coming out later on this week. And I was telling him that Holyoke really feels like Brockton, like seven years ago, because we got our start in the city of Brockton, city of champs. And this looks like a nice little home flip, a nice little, cute little starter base setup right here. You can pick these up from Home Depot. This is really, we use these a lot in our, in our apartments. So whenever we're doing like an apartment turnover. This one's nice. They did the butcher block, which is kind of charming. Laundry in unit, but yeah, to see, I hope this sells for $325, because to see these moving at this price point, it's just going to be following that trend. This is where Brockton was at this point. We were selling 3-families for $300,000, and now they're trading for over $1 million. And it was just a couple years ago that 2-families were $200,000 in Brockton. And they kind of look like this too. All right, what do we think about this guy? So actually, 443 Main Street, good for... we got a price change. So we actually walked this building, and we have some video of it. We haven't put it together. We have so much video that we're going through right now. Part of the reason we're bringing on interns this year is because we've got all of this great content, and this engine is picking up steam, and we're pulling on. You guys hear that? It's my cats killing each other. Anyway, so we actually we're at Clark University this Wednesday because we're going to be bringing on some media students to help with the production of all this content that we're churning out. We're gonna give Caleb a little bit of relief. If my cats start to kill each other in live time, I will get up to go, hopefully, remove them without losing any fingers. But we were in this property, 443 Main Street, and it's really big. It's 6 units. Our friend Xavier is listing it. Great guy. Reach out to him. He's a good connect to have here in Holyoke, Massachusetts. And, he was looking at this as a potential condominium for sale development, which, to be honest with you, I think is a great idea. Holyoke, I think, needs home ownership opportunities downtown. It's one of the more affordable communities in the state of Massachusetts. And, whenever there's neighborhoods that are, challenged with drug activity or if there's any negativity that's happening in the area, homeownership is a great way to just kind of naturally move that stuff out of the neighborhood because they're homeowners and they care about their home, they care about their neighborhood, typically more so than your renter tenant base will. So the question becomes, you know, can the construction expenses support a homeownership exit? And it's potential on this. There is potential on this property. These units are really big. I think they're all 3 bedrooms, or they're 2 bedrooms plus like an office studio. They're all approximately 1,500, 1,600 square feet. So really big units. Um, this is Main Street right here. We've got a property going down this way, and we've got a couple, one or two right over here. So this is actually a really nice little area um, on kind of the outskirts of downtown Holyoke as you're coming in. If you're driving in from Boston and you get off the Pike, you basically you get right off on Main Street and you come in, and that's how you get to downtown. And this area, this street, about 2 years ago, I guess 2.5 years ago, was designated as a Puerto Rican cultural arts district, which was really cool because Holyoke has a large concentration of Puerto Ricans. I think it's the highest concentration of Puerto Ricans outside of Puerto Rico. So we had to celebrate, not with all these graffiti burners here. We had a lot of international street artists come and put up some really big murals. And over the last 2.5 years, about 30 art installations have gone into Holyoke. We would whoever buys this is going to cover up all of those tags. It is what it is. The underground street culture art scene is alive and well. But what we do have, you can't tell too much from this photo, but there's a back alley here, and that means that there is lots of parking here. So that's why I think that this piece of property right here may have what it takes to sell this out as condominium homeownership opportunities. There's not really, the problem is there's not too many great market rate comps, comparable home sales for condominiums in this market yet. There are some $200,000 plus condominium sales up the hill, a little ways away, but it's a little farther than what you'd want to count on for a market rate comp. You can see here's one of those beautiful murals that was installed. This was actually a group of women from Puerto Rico, and they came, and this was actually really cool because this mural was actually painted on the ground. It was a community art project. There was a lot of kids. They came to basically help fill in all the colors and do all the painting. And this kind of like adhesive film got pressed onto the brick and then squeegeed on, kind of like a wrap for a car. And then it got finished, and the ladies basically added like the shadowing and the final touches. And it was a community art project that turned out really pretty. But this you can kind of, you're looking at 6 units here, 60, what is that, $68,000 a unit. The question is, can you renovate this building? How much does it cost to renovate this building? We're probably thinking it's going to cost you somewhere in that, 5 to 7 range. There's some structural work that needs to be finished off. You're doing it all. You've got to do the fire suppression. You've got to do the fire alarms. We spent $500,000 on our 3-family in 89 Central Ave in Chelsea, Massachusetts. So the cost of construction is just expensive. It's the hardest thing for all of Massachusetts development because you're not really saving any money on construction by coming out to, to Western Massachusetts. It's going to cost just as much to do the job 90 minutes outside of Boston as it is to do the job inside of Boston at this scale. But this potentially has the guts to be a good homeownership exit here. If he can get, $250,000 a unit, you're looking at a $1.5 million exit for homeownership opportunities. And the question comes, if you can do this deal for 650 grand and you can actually get that $250,000 sellout, you've got yourself a development deal here. You just have to make sure that you can do it quickly, right? You want to be in and out of this thing in 12 to 15 months, which means you want to be actively marketing your homeownership opportunities. You want to be trying to find those buyers, line up their financing before the property is even done. You don't want to finish this, go to market, wait 6 months. You don't want anything to go stale. You don't want people to be concerned that, their units can't move. You want to try to have these things locked up. I would work with a good brokerage that is good at pre-selling. Good at pre-selling. Look at this. 2067 Northampton Street. This bad boy, now it's been on market for 60 days. Hopefully this beautiful home moves. We love to see this number, 389.9. And for the record, let's just talk about a pretty house. Holyoke. So this is Northampton Street. This is a little up the hill. This is a great street in Holyoke, Massachusetts. Holyoke used to be one of the richest cities. It was actually the richest city in America at one point. They made 300 tons of paper a day, and they were actually the Queen Industrial City of America because they were, I believe Holyoke was America's first planned industrial city. Yeah, Holyoke was America's first planned industrial city. Maybe I need to double check this. Let's see. Holyoke Queen Industrial. Let's see. Hold on. Yeah. Holyoke was known as the Queen of Industrial Cities in the United States because of its rapid development industrial output. Bada boom. All right. So all of the mega rich people lived kind of in this area of Holyoke. So a lot of the Victorians and these really beautiful big single families are in and around this neighborhood. Stunning architecture, stunning real estate. This is a 3-family. I wonder if it was converted, but either way, a great price point for the market. You're going to continue to see real estate just go up. Here's another one. This one just went online for $425, guys. Well-maintained 3-family, located in the Highlands of Holyoke. Yep, so this is up the hill. This is great. This is another good area. 6 beds, 3 full baths, 14 rooms, lots of natural lighting and hardwood flooring. Let's see, eating kitchen, dining room, full tub, shower. 3rd floor offers 4 rooms, eating kitchen, dining room. $2668, $425. That's kind of, let's see. I don't know. This might be kind of pushing the envelope here, but what's that episode of South Park we just watched, where the agents come in when they team up, the neighborhood changes? That's a funny episode. Probably shouldn't be quoting South Park on my Find That Flip episodes, but nonetheless, they have the island in the middle. This was done on purpose. Okay, cute. All right, so not a flip, a cute house. Here you go, 4-family plus 5. Here's something that's on the market, a little bit bigger, guys. Investors, business opportunity, well-maintained 8-family, only for sale because of divorce. Sorry, guys. But, this is kind of one of those this is kind of one of those, if you're thinking about like how do I find houses off market, how do I find deals, it can be, you got to be comfortable getting yelled at on the phone, but you can basically, you can find out who's going through divorces, and a lot of times they're splitting their assets up. 9.5 times out of 10, they do not want to have a phone call from a buyer saying, hey, I heard you're going through a divorce, you want to sell your house. But these deals do happen. You're looking for distressed, typically, situations. That could mean the building's distressed. That could also mean that the homeowner is going through an experience that has them in a challenging position, right? So here we are. 7:59 doesn't. I don't know if you can get. I don't know. Can you even get away with this anymore? I don't know. I know that's weird. Here's something interesting. A lot of people, I bet, have not seen this before. Gas meters inside the bedroom or inside the bathroom. This is how almost all of the apartments were done back in the day. We have multiple units with gas, with these gas meters in the bathroom. Crazy. It is what it is. They're safe. They function. That's how the city's kept them. If you're doing like a big renovation, obviously you end up having to move those out to the outside or to the basement, wherever the building department wants you to put it. But yeah, this oh, look at that. They got there you go. This is one of those fire alarm monitoring systems, right? So in the event there's ever an alarm going off, it'll call the fire department for you, which is great. See, we got some gas meters in the basement, some gas meters in the bathrooms. That's a really big one. That must do like, this makes me think that there's one heating system for the entire building, because these really big heavy ones, they sit on the ground like this. Yep. Boop. Man. Oh, I don't want to say I've done this once or twice before, but there it is. For the record, anybody watching this was like, well, duh, Alex, probably they have radiators in every room. Why would you assume they have individual boilers? And I would say you're right. But an 8 family for under 800 grand, you're seeing this is what are most of these left side apartments have 2 bedrooms, right side has 3 bedrooms. So let's just assume that you've got 4 2s and 4 8s. So the 2 bedrooms can rent for about 1,400. 3 bedrooms can rent for, well, you're paying for the heat here. I don't know. It doesn't look like you're paying for the cooking, because they have their own individual gas meters. But let's see. Let's do some quick math here. Harrison's doing well, everybody. He's still on the road. He just checked in. He says hi. 1750 times, what do we say, 8 times 4. That's 7 grand in rent plus 1450. That's 5,800. So you're looking at just under 13,000 here in gross revenue for a multifamily deal that you can pick up for under 800. When you look at that by 12, where else in the state of Massachusetts can you get yourself that many units to generate $153,000? But definitely want to walk through this thing and get some eyeballs on it, because it looked a little tired from some of those photos. Definitely nothing. It wasn't the Taj Mahal, but it does say that all units have lead certificates. In the listing, he says, I have a cash buyer that wants the building, but he wants it empty. The owner wants it sold now. Well, that, by the way, that buyer is not us. We did not put the offer in, but that is, we understand why he might want it vacant, especially because he knows that there's probably some repairs and upgrades to be had. All right, guys, I think that was fun taking a little tour through Holyoke here together. I'm gonna get us in 8488 Newton Street probably this week, and I'm gonna take some videos and we will regroup. But we're gonna be shortly heading down to Providence, Rhode Island, to link up with our dear friend Kyle, and I can't wait to launch this podcast, to drop it in the next week or two. There's Frank, our guard dog, keeping everybody safe. Thank goodness for him. I don't know what we would do. Guys, much love to you. God bless you. Have a wonderful afternoon and a great Monday. Leave us some comments below on what you think, where you want us to check out, what markets you want us to explore. And if you'd be interested in joining one of these live streams, if you're in the business, let's check out a market together. It doesn't even have to be in Massachusetts. We had somebody on the podcast last week from Florida, so we may be exploring the Florida market together, and looking at what types of deals he's doing. All right, everybody, find that flip. Signing out. Have a great Monday.